Hello, Voices of Wrestling listener. Dave Ryan here. Have you ever wondered to yourself how many hidden gems are hidden away inside the last years of World Championship Wrestling? Have you ever asked yourself how many tenuous gags can be made about the name Mike Enos? And have you ever thought about what it sounds like for two Irishmen to interpret a very chaotic company through its B show? The answers to all this and more are just a click away. Check out Days of Thunder every second Thursday on the Voices of Wrestling podcast network.
Hello everyone, my name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the podcast all about Joshi Pro Wrestling here on the Voices of Wrestling podcast network. Every other Monday, we are with you talking about the biggest news in Joshi, along with show reviews, previews, and much, much more.
So if you're new to Joshi or you've been a longtime fan, this is the show for you. We've got something for everyone here. So check us out, Jumping Bomb Audio.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Welcome to a bonus episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Hungee here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. We're bringing this to you on Wednesday, right before Dynamite, because Mother Nature is a bitch. My name is Tyler Fornes, and with me is my co-host Fred Moreland, who unfortunately did not get to watch the show live because of that ugly bitch. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, 70 mile per hour extended winds is a bad time. Here in central Kentucky, we got hit hard by some windstorms, and I did not have power from Friday afternoon through what it is Wednesday through Tuesday afternoon. I'm not used to like civilization. I've just been living in a hotel room for 5 days. Try to watch the show hunched over a hotel desk in a shitty hotel chair. And I still have a knot in my back. So I gave up after like 2 hours and just finished watching it last night.
And we are glad you were able to watch it and glad you have power. And these shows we're going to try and get them a lot closer to the AEW pay-per-view call time just because they're more timely. But when Mother Nature attacks, there's nothing you can do. Let's get right into it, Fred, because I want to start with the pre-show. Did you watch the pre-show?
I did watch the pre-show. I always watch the pre-show. And I do think we need to discuss just the overall structure of the pre-show because they definitely tried something different.
They did. And I'm very curious as to why. And we know the WWE style of pre-show. You get a match, maybe two, but their pre-shows are 2 hours. And it's essentially like a roundtable talk show. This was kind of a hybrid of that model and what AEW has done in the past, where they load up a lot of matches. They had one match. They gave it a good amount of time. I want to say about 16, 17 minutes. And that was the Lucha Brothers and Mark Briscoe versus the Varsity Athletes. But it was Renee Paquette monologuing for the most part. And she had a couple people join her. She had Britt Baker, and then RJ City had a bunch of segments who RJ City all of a sudden looks like an old man now, which we can also talk about. And I kind of liked this structure. I thought it worked, but I also don't think it's their optimum as far as entertainment value. What I want to pick your brain on, Fred, is do you think that they believe that this model might have actually sold more pay-per-views?
That's kind of my assumption because anything else doesn't really make much sense to me. I can't imagine Tony Khan being a let's put a lot less wrestling on my show kind of guy. That just doesn't strike me as his deal. And, you know, I thought this was, I don't know. I don't think it worked particularly well as far as entertainment stuff. I love RJ City. I love his AEW stuff. I think that's consistently funny and has been getting better over time. I thought he came off as like a bigger dork than Todd Pettingill here. and that's rough. Like, it was not, generally speaking, it was not terribly entertaining, and it really featured far more of his this is really awkward gimmick than the this is funny gimmick, and I don't think it worked particularly well over such an extended period of time.
Yeah, it all came across very odd and very weird. But I'll say this. I thought it was effective in the method that they went about it. I wonder if they're going to revert back to what they used to do and try and get some high-octane matches on the show, because I'll never forget the Forbidden Door pre-show. That was 4 matches, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And they were all good to great. And that got me really excited for the show. But I wonder if that format specifically is for the New Japan fan, because the New Japan fan itself, you don't get mid-match promos. You don't get hype-up segments. You get
The show.
wrestling. It is a sport. And AEW is a sport more so than other wrestling promotions in the United States, but they still have the American wrestling theme of, hey, we're still going to do promos. We're still going to do video packages. And I'm very curious to see what kind of analytics that this shows. And I think I'm going to, if I'm able, I'm going to try and get on the next media call for Tony Khan. I try and ask this question. I also want to ask him about football analytics and if he relates any of that to wrestling, because I find that fascinating too. Because if you don't know, Tony Khan is the director of analytics for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's talk about the match at least, Fred. The match itself, I thought was great.
Yeah, it was a very fun match.
Mark Briscoe is over as absolute hell. And you can imagine. I wish we could have gotten to see him this over in this company when Jay was still alive. But I'm going to try not to look back like that. He's over now. He's having fun. And this is obviously his way of still coping, because you can just tell he's a ball of fire. The Lucha Brothers were great. The varsity athletes here were great. And Smart Mark Sterling is just the perfect scummy shitbag. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was a very fun match. I went 3.5 on it. Pretty damn enjoyable. And all the guys are very good at what they're doing. Obviously, the Lucha Bros are stars. Mark Briscoe, I mean, I still think you should push him as much as you can on AEW TV and just see what happens. Just keep moving him up the card. And the varsity athletes are all they're all terrific in the ring. They're all very talented. And, Mark Sterling, I think, is I think when you have the discussions about the best, manager in wrestling these days, I think he doesn't get brought up enough. I think he's terrific at what he does. And, this was a really enjoyable match, well structured, a lot of fun. You had some good teases of a heel win along the way, although it was obvious that they weren't going to win. And I thought it was a lot of fun. I liked this quite a bit.
Same here. I gave it 3.5. I really liked the entrance where Smart Mark Sterling's just over the PA.
Oh, yeah, the NBA style thing.
Oh, it was great. It was great. It was slimy. And then Smart Mark Sterling took the package pile driver from Penta at the end. This was a lot of fun. If you didn't notice a little touch, Pentagon had and Phoenix had San Francisco 49ers inspired gear, and on the mask you had 85 for George Kittle, because they have they have a relationship, and they're both big fans of each other.
I did not catch the jersey number there. I hope you're looking forward to Pinto wearing that suit for the rest of his life, much like he's been wearing the Joker one for as often as he can for the past 3 years.
I don't think that he's going to be wearing that one too often. I feel like that one is going to be specifically for when they're in Northern California.
We'll see. Yeah, I just know how he uses the Joker one at every opportunity he can. So,
yeah. All right. Now let's get into the meat of the show, Fred. I want your opinion. Do you think it was a good idea to start with Ricky Starks versus Chris Jericho? This is not the style of match that AEW has traditionally allowed at their pay-per-views. They're usually high-octane style matches. This card really didn't have a great match to kick off the show, so they ended up going with Ricky Starks versus Chris Jericho. Do you think it worked?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the crowd was really into it, and they had a great reaction. And they don't always do often they don't do the fast paced opener to the pay per view cards. In fact, if you go back and look, Full Gear, the opener was the Jack Perry Luchasaurus Steel Cage match. Before that, All Out was the Casino Ladder match, which was a spot fest, but had the MJF finish. And then Forbidden Door opened with Jericho Guevara and Minoru Suzuki against Eddie Kingston, Wheeler Yuta, and Shota Umino. Double or Nothing was Wardlow killing MJF. They don't really stick to a particular pattern here. In fact, this is probably more akin to what they have been opening, because if you go back to last Revolution, the opener was Eddie Kingston and Chris Jericho. This felt like, a normal, they don't do the must have be a spot fest between mid-carders kind of thing here. And this seemed like a perfectly fine opener as far as match structure. And I liked the match too.
I thought the match was fun. It had one of the best counter sequences I've ever seen in professional wrestling, where Jericho has been setting him up for the Codebreaker. He beat Pretty Peter Avalon on Wednesday's Dynamite with the Codebreaker to reestablish that move. Not only did he hit the Codebreaker, he hit Ricky Starks mid-spear with the Codebreaker.
Yeah, that was cool.
And I thought that was phenomenal. And then the second best counter I've seen in a long time was Ricky Starks just putting his arm up and blocking the Judas effect. It's so simple and it's brilliant, because that's all anybody really has to do. Hey, I could just take it with my arm and not in my fucking head. And it was great. I gave this match 4 stars. I still think it's a weird way to open the show, considering what AEW's track record has been at. And I'll evolve my opinion a little bit. Kind of how you brought up past experiences, that makes a little bit more sense. But this was just a great match. And now this was the kickoff to the theme of the show, which was homegrown talent going over. And that continued here with the final burial. Jungle Boy Jack Perry defeats Christian Cage. This match was weird, but it wasn't weird in a bad way. I want your opinion here. Why in the world is Jungle Boy coming out in jeans like he's ready to go to war, and he's still in his little fucking booties?
No, you gotta have your wrestling boots on for the traction, obviously.
But wear different ones. Like, you're trying to be serious. Like, man, maybe it's just that I'm a little Joe Lanza pilled, because he's brought this up multiple times. But dude, just wear shoes. It's okay.
I don't know, man. Like, it's wrestling. You go back and watch so many street fights, and people will be like trying to look all hard with everything, wearing jeans and coming out, like in their street clothes, but then they'll have, like, I don't know, the rocker style armbands or whatever. You'll see that sometimes with some guys. And I don't know, it's just funny. I don't think I didn't even notice the boots, to be honest. So
yeah,
but I tell you, one thing I did notice was how much this crowd hated Christian.
Oh yeah, Christian was public enemy number 1.
Yeah, he was terrifically over as a heel here. And honestly, you could put him as high on the card as you want right now. I think once he comes back from hell. In fact, I just kind of hope he cuts a promo about how he was in hell when he saw Jack Perry's dad, or something like that. But yeah, he's just a fantastic character, and he can really work when he needs to, and he did here. I like this match a lot. I went 4 stars on it. I liked how they built eventually to the concerto finish, as they had to, which was basically the basis of the feud. And they really played that up good in the video package before the match. And I like this. I like this a ton. I thought the casket dropping into the area on the stage was funny. I don't know that that's really what you want to go for, but I mean, that's the worst thing I can say about your match. You did a good job.
Look, it's the final burial. It was exaggerated, but I thought it worked well with the tone of the match. And I want to give Christian a lot of credit here, because he did not, by any circumstances, have to do everything he did. One, he came out in the all black, which the funeral style attire I thought was
the
really
tactical turtleneck.
That's perfect. He took some gnarly bumps here. The shovel with the snare trap submission with the shovel in his mouth.
Yeah, that sucked.
There's
a big tope on him that knocked him down.
That was what I was trying to think of, the tope. Just he did not have to take everything, and he took the concerto, which is the whole story of the match. I thought Jungle Boy got a little too dramatic with both the concerto and closing the casket. I thought he should have been a little bit more, hey, fuck you, buddy, and just slam it. But at the end of the day, that's a minor gripe. I thought this was incredibly well done. I want to see Jungle Boy finally take another step and become a singles wrestler. Man. Yeah, that just be Jack Perry at this point. I want to see more. I want to see him do what he has mentioned so far this year, is going for and claiming a singles title in this company. This was a really good feud, considering there was the triceps injury to Christian and they had to hold off this long. I thought it was very well executed. I said last week that I wish they would have given this a little bit more build, because it felt a little rushed for this show. But at the end of the day, they nailed it, and I gave it 4.25.
Yeah, I went straight 4 on it. Just a lot of fun. Really great stuff on this. Going back one match, I just want to notice something. I don't recall the last time I saw Chris Jericho do a Death Valley Driver, but he did in his match with Ricky Starks, which popped me pretty big.
Yeah, this show was filled with that kind of stuff, and it got even better with this match. That the House of Black defeat the Elite to win the AEW Trios Championships and become the 4th champion in the history of the title. Fred, this is professional wrestling. This was incredible. And we can talk all we want about the hokey bullshit that the House of Black has.
Yeah.
Oh, and the vignettes and the spookiness. But when they're in the ring, bell to bell, you can't complain about these guys. These guys are great. And I think it's going to be a really nice addition to this trios division. And I think we need to get the Young Bucks back to the tag division. We need Kenny Omega doing single stuff, especially with him. Hold on. Almost sneezed there. Having the IWGP US Championship. Jeff Cobb just called him out on the anniversary show of in New Japan on 3/6. This was great. Julia Hart taking that V-trigger. Like, she is House of Black just as much as these other guys are. She is, like, her role here is just excellent. And then the finish was awesome. It really got you to believe, oh my God, this is really the finish. It was definitive. I can't remember what Brody King calls that, like, power slam, like, claw driver.
Is that the Dante's Inferno? Is that right?
Yeah. Awesome stuff.
They really made Brody King look like $1 million. I mean, it's not like he wasn't working hard. He did a great job. But like the Bucks and the Omega bumped like hell for him too, and he just looked like a world killer.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool that we got Kenny Omega facing off against knockoff Kenny Omega, Buddy Matthews, to start the match. I thought that was nice. A really cool touch. The crowd was just insane for these guys. And I gave this 5 stars. This was pro wrestling. This was, I want to kick the living shit out of you because I want those titles. And it was great in every sense of the word. So much can go wrong in a match like this because it's 6 people in AEW. So AEW's got that kind of tornado tag house style rules where they're not super strict on, oh, you got to be holding the rope and stuff. Now, they kind of let things go in that aspect as far as traditional tag match. So much could go wrong. So much could be lack of chemistry. They killed it. It was great. And this is one of the reasons I love this company so much. This is a 5-star match, and it's not even going to come close for my match of the year because we're gonna get there, believe me. Yeah. But this was everything that you could have wanted this to be and more.
Yeah, I love this match. I thought the closing stretch was particularly awesome. I thought that everyone was just on point in this match, and I love the structure of it. Everything went well. I went 4 3/4 on it. You know, if I have to stop and think if it's a 5-star match, then it's not a 5-star match. So just a touch shy for me, but still, like, this is a must see match, an absolute banger of a match. And I don't know, I disagree with you. I hope that they keep this feud going so we at least get at least one more big match and maybe some singles or tags coming out of it to kind of keep that going, and to continue the feud, just because I know these guys can do a lot more together and I would love to see that.
I'm not going to complain if they keep this feud going. Based
I would hope
on
not.
what we saw from Don Callis' Twitter, I don't think this is going to keep going, because Don Callis had Kenny Omega in a suit, and that kind of inferring that we are back in business going for singles gold. I think, and I could be wrong, I think we might be getting Kenny Omega challenging MJF come May for the AEW World title. That's my thinking here.
Oh, that is what happens. That would be pretty amazing.
These two haven't faced off against each other.
No, I don't think they've touched. No.
This is probably the biggest match Tony Khan can book right now, is MJF and Kenny Omega. And with that being the case, well, you've got about 10 weeks to build it. And I think it could be pretty easy considering the talent of both of these guys.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's move on. And I thought this was a very pointed point in the show. The cool down match was the AEW Women's World title match, which I'll be honest, I had a lot of intrigue about, but I wasn't really looking forward to it. Jamie Hayter ended up getting the win by rolling up Ruby in a crucifix after exchanging multiple roll-up attempts with her. And then Saraya was also involved in the match. The match itself, I was very impressed. This was a good match. This could have easily devolved into complete and utter bullshit. It was good. Saraya was fine. Ruby Soho was fine.
Well, hold on. I thought Ruby Soho was great.
I thought Hayter was great.
I thought Hayter was great too.
I mean, maybe I'm underselling her a little bit, but I didn't think she was necessarily great. I thought Hayter was great, and the other two played their parts well. But what I found interesting was they beat Soho in a kind of banana peel-esque fashion. It didn't feel like a definitive win for Hayter. And then she turns.
Yeah.
They could have just pinned her ass. And then she turns, she gets all her heat back, and it doesn't matter. It almost makes Hayter feel like she just kind of squirmed her way into a victory here. And then you have Ruby Soho joining Saraya and Toni Storm. But I can't remember who mentioned it, and I'd give them credit if I did. It felt like Ruby was not quite sure what way she wanted to go. And it didn't fully click with me until I heard that. I'm like, okay, she's trying to decide what way she wants to go, and then she ends up deciding at the end of the match after losing. Like, to me, that makes a little more sense. What did you think?
I thought the match was actually quite good. I went 3 3/4 on it. I thought that they did a great job. Saraya was competent. She did what she needed to do. And I thought that both Hayter and Soho looked great. I thought Soho was just really laying her stuff in, and it all looked really good. As far as the post-match angle, it was not bad, I guess, but it was, you can make the argument that she decided, after the match to do what she did in kayfabe. I think the big question is, how are they going to portray that moving forward? Are they going to address it at all on TV? Or are they just going to be like, nope, she's just spray painting people with L's? The storyline around this is still kind of meh. It's not great. I guess we'll see how that progresses moving forward. But obviously, they're not done with the Jamie Hayter versus the Invaders storyline.
I'm intrigued to see who ends up joining Hayter and Britt Baker, because if you take a look at some of the homegrown women in this company, Riho makes some sense.
Mm-hmm. Sheeta,
okay, let's talk about
she had a finger injury for a bit, I read, and then she's been back in Japan doing some stuff. So
okay, because she was a huge part of this angle at first,
and then she disappeared.
Yeah. Okay, so a finger injury. Okay, I can understand it, but at least explain what's going on, because she was the antithesis of this angle.
Yeah, she was central to the angle. She may have been, was virtually in what became the Ruby Soho position before the turn, and I think that explaining it at some point, I don't recall them doing that at all. So maybe that's on me, but I just have no memory of them addressing it in any way. Yeah, but they do that once in a while in AEW. They just something happens and person falls into the abyss for a short term. But I do expect Sheeta to come back and be a major babyface in this storyline.
If it all works out, I think it'll end up being great. But if initially taking Sheeta out of it just kind of feels disappointing. What didn't feel disappointing, Fred? I don't know if I mentioned I went 3 1/4. I thought it was a very competent to good professional wrestling match. This was professional wrestling. This is everything you want. Texas death match.
Oh, yeah.
Hangman Page defeated Jon Moxley. Oh my God. These two took utter destruction and made it into something beautiful. And Hangman Page got the special entrance. He got the red light. It kind of felt Red Dead Redemption like.
Yeah, I mean, Ghost Riders in the Sky is a fantastic song. So
yeah, it was awesome. And then as Moxie's coming out, he doesn't look as amped as he usually does. He looks like he's ready to kill. He looks like he's ready to murder. And I thought that was a really perfect way to set the tone. You've got Page attacking him right away. The spot of the match. 2 spots I will never, ever forget. Moxley getting Hangman Page in that triangle and goring out his forehead like he's Abdullah the Butcher or Homicide in Peak Ring of Honor. Like, he's just going to town, and he gets the blood splatter all over his chest.
I freaked out when that happened.
Oh, that was perfect. They brought out the bricks, which I thought were incredibly well done. And the finish of this match, where Moxley had when he brought out the bricks, he brought out the biker chain. Hangman gets the buckshot. Moxley does the fighting spirit, and excuse me.
They sneezes on him.
That would have been funny, especially with all the blood that would come out too. Hangman gets him down again, and then wraps the chain around his neck, throws him over the rope, and literally is choking this man to death. And Moxley has never tapped out, and he tapped out here, making it that much more convincing. This was a brilliant layout. Everything in this match, the barbed wire raking across each other's back, the Oihara moonsault, the stomping of the hand in between the bricks. This was all phenomenal. 5 stars. This is one of the easiest 5 stars I've ever given.
Oh, this was a slam dunk 5-star match. I know that podcasting is a visual medium, but I am going to hold up for you, Tyler, my notes from this match where I just freaked out and just started writing in all caps. And it came out looking like I'm the Zodiac Killer. This match was fantastic and just terrifically brutal. And if you're going to go do this style of match, this is exactly how you should do it. They just had a fantastic, I can't praise it enough. It was just really great stuff. And Page came out looking like a killer. Moxley, is at the point in his career where he can put over a guy and not have an issue, obviously. And he really put over Page here, to the point where I think Page is you mentioned Kenny Omega earlier. I actually think it's going to be Page as the next challenger or pay-per-view, at least challenger for MJF. Excuse me. I thought this was awesome. Just a truly amazing match with 5 stars on it. Thought about breaking the scale, but again, if I have to stop and think about it, I'm not going to do it. So,
yeah, thinking's for rich people, Fred. We don't do that here on The Good, the Bad, and the Hungee. I can't say enough about this match. I really think, like you kind of said, that Moxley can put him over. I don't think this hurts Moxley at all.
Oh no, it doesn't. It doesn't. He looks like a total badass coming out of this, anyways. But he didn't. He put him over for sure. Like that's a real putting over kind of thing. I do have a funny story from this match. I actually stopped watching the pay-per-view on Sunday before this match, and I told my wife I would save it for her because I know she likes Hangman, and I did not consider just how she does not like blood matches, and I forgot to consider the Jon Moxley on pay-per-view aspect of things. And I think about right around the fork spot, she looked at me and she was like, "Why did you save this for me?" And look, I was right. The match was awesome. I just,
my wife was watching the pay-per-view with me, and she went up right before the trios match, and she comes down to say goodnight, and I tell her, I'm like, "Hey, I'm glad you didn't stay down here." She's like, "Why?" I'm like, there was a lot of blood, and you would have been really grossed out in how they got there.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't Pizza Cutter Nick Gage bad, but if you're not a wrestling fan, you're like, "What the fuck, man? What are you doing?" But this was perfect, and it really carried over into this next match, Fred. The next match was dead on arrival. Wardlow defeats Mojo for the title. It was
you talked about it. You talked about a death spot earlier with the women's match. This was more of a death spot.
The crowd was dead, and Wardlow came out to a decent pop. After that, it just felt like they were going through the motions.
And it's not like they weren't over or anything. It's just the crowd was expended. They were done.
Mm-hmm. And how about Wardlow getting the win on Samoa Joe with Coquina Clutch?
That was a nice touch.
It was a very nice touch. Especially
because it came right after Joe. Joe is so great at being like a cocky dick. And he set up the Powerbomb Symphony and did the whole like conducting thing with his hands and goes to herk up Wardlow, and Wardlow slips out and immediately gets the Coquina Clutch in. I like this a lot. It really played into they were tag team partners and knew each other well. Wardlow screaming "die" as he has the Coquina Clutch in. Sure was a thing. Thank you, professional wrestling. But yeah, I liked this match well enough. I went 3 1/4 on it. I mean, look, if this is the worst match on your show, or I actually thought the next one was a little lower on my star ratings, but if this is, the second worst match on your show's doing just fine.
Yeah, I gave it 3 1/4. I wanted more from this match, but it's hard to be mad at this match.
It was solid.
Solid is honestly a great way to put it. It was very good.
It was solid with a good finishing stretch. I do think they could have done better if they were set up to do better, but they were just in an impossible situation. So
yeah. Next up on the card, the 4-way for the AEW World Tag Team titles. The Guns defeat the Acclaimed, Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, and Danhausen, and the AEW All-Atlantic Champion Orange Cassidy. I thought it was the right decision to pin Danhausen.
Yeah, he's the weakest guy in the group, so that's fine.
I did not like the idea of putting the Guns over here. And I know this was just a gateway to get FTR back. Okay, I'm not that upset, but I really thought you had a chance to get a hot act like Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett the belts and let them run with it for a couple months. The Acclaimed are still over beyond belief, so I don't think you have to worry about them losing heat yet. I think they're fine. But Jarrett and Lethal have been so much fun, and especially Jarrett. Dude, this guy's in his 50s. We complained for years about TNA pushing him too much.
Yeah.
Now we want him to have a push because
I know, right?
It's just different now.
It's been a long time since I read it, but I read on a forum someone was like, Jeff Jarrett would have been the greatest mid-carder ever, but he went to TNA and he insisted on being pushed as like a world-beating world champion, which did not fit what he was at all. But he is tremendous in this mid-card, mostly comedy kind of spot. The shitbag heel who eventually, regularly gets his comeuppance, but still thinks he's fantastic. Like the opening in the match was him, I forget what exactly the move was, but like doing a strut and then turning around and being shocked and disgusted that Orange Cassidy's doing his lazy version of the strut. That's fantastic stuff. And if that's what we remember Jeff Jarrett for, I think we, instead of like the reigns of terror of the aughts in TNA, he'd be remembered so much more fondly. And that's kind of a shame because he really is talented. He's always been talented. This was a lot of fun. There's a lot of good comedy in this. This was perfect for the pre-main event spot. Both Dud and Singh, man, they were looking good. Had some nice suits on, looking nice.
Yeah, it was very well done.
The FTR return was perfect.
The FTR return was great because the second you knew the Guns were going to run their mouths, you knew something was coming because you're not getting pay-per-view time to talk unless there's something coming.
Yeah.
And FTR coming back was cool. They got a couple months off, which honestly was well-deserved after the year they had last year. And we're going to get FTR versus the Guns for these belts. And I would assume, and here's another prediction. FTR Young Bucks 3 at Double or Nothing.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. I do think they're going to eventually do that. And that'll be awesome when they do.
All right, let's get to perhaps the greatest match I've ever seen. MJF defeating Bryan Danielson in a 60-minute Iron Man match for the AEW World title. This was brilliant.
Oh, it was perfect.
Not only did, there were questions, like the kayfabe questions was, can MJF go 60 minutes? Can he hang with Bryan Danielson? No, he hung with Bryan Danielson. And what really impressed me was how much MJF put Bryan Danielson over within the context of the match. And he did so by winning.
Mm-hmm.
The multiple tap outs where it doesn't actually count, showing that, Danielson's getting me. And then they go to overtime. I don't know how you want to attack this match because there's so much that we can talk about that was just brilliant here.
Oh, man. Look, this match was just fantastic. And, of course, with an hour of it, you think I took 5 notes. I just sat back and enjoyed this. We got the MJF gets the low blow to get disqualified so we can get 2 quick pins thing that I think everyone thought was going to be some kind of a variation on that. I thought that, I don't know, man. I can't say much beyond MJF was terrific and Bryan Danielson's probably the best wrestler to ever step in the ring. That's all I can think of. These two just tore it up. It was fantastically structured. I thought commentary was awesome on it. Bryce Remsburg, especially in the overtime period, did such a great job as the referee. I know some people are like, I don't want to. They have some idea that you should never know anything about the referee. And as someone, you obviously are a NFL fan. Are you going to look at me dead ass and tell me that you wish you didn't know who Ed Hockley was? Yeah, you look at the NBA, you got Scott Foster, who is noteworthy enough that plays into big storylines, like when he ejects, that player Barnes for the Raptors a couple nights ago, and got him ejected for nothing, 30 seconds left. I'm not saying these things are good for the league, but it's not the idea that WWE came up with 15 or 10 years ago or whatever it was that you shouldn't even notice the referee as a completely across the board thing is a bad idea, because referees with personality are good things when they play into things correctly, and Bryce Remsburg played into things correctly here. I thought he did a great job. And I thought he played a key role in the overtime of this match, which was the greatest overtime I've ever seen in pro wrestling. Like just brilliant stuff here with MJF, getting right on the verge of losing, getting caught cheating so many times. Going to hit Danielson with the championship belt, and Bryce Remsburg looking right at him and saying, "Go right ahead. I don't care. I'll disqualify you and you'll lose the title, you idiot." And like that was a fantastic spot. And then of course it all ends with MJF getting his cheating in and doing it successfully and not getting caught and winning as only he could. And look, this was just the structure of this match was great. It's hard to do an hour-long match and not have any dead spots. And I was never once bored in this match. I thought it was a fascinating bout throughout. And I don't know what else to say. I broke the scale for this. I went 5.25. I don't think it was like one of the very, very tippy toppest matches I've ever seen, like in terms of like the top 5 or whatever, but it's got to be in the top 100 easily for me. Just tremendous stuff.
Yeah, this was incredible. Not only so I want to talk about Remsburg for a second and his brilliance, because you mentioned him like, go ahead, hit Danielson with the title. I'll disqualify you. So he gives him the belt. He pulls out the Dynamite Diamond. Wrestling 60 minutes with that diamond ring, which is basically like a class ring in your trunks.
I have to assume he picked it up at some point. I would hope that it was slipped to him so he didn't have to like deal with that and hope it doesn't fall out or whatever.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But 2, he puts it on while Remsburg isn't looking. We all know it's there. And while Brian has him in the label lock, Bryce sees it.
Yes.
Pulls it off, and the visual of MJF like, oh no.
MJF's facial expressions are some of the best ever. Like he's just great at characterizing in the ring without doing the thing that WWE loves to do right now, which is just outright cutting promos during matches. And MJF is just so good. It's hard to overstate just how talented this guy is.
It's not just talent, Fred. It's the mind for the business. Let's
exactly. Well, that's what I consider part of his talent, to be clear.
Yeah. Let's go through the finish, because at this point, Remsburg has taken off the Dynamite Diamond. We're in overtime. MJF gets a finger on the ropes. The second he gets the finger on the ropes, he immediately taps out.
Yeah. 1,
that putting Brian over essentially, and 2, confusing him, making him think he's won when he hasn't. Then he slithers down to the apron and finds the oxygen tank. Before overtime started,
he was getting oxygen.
We're giving him oxygen because he couldn't.
Wow, Danielson was like celebrating.
Because they did hang with Danielson for 60 minutes.
And they did the fake tap out spot right at 60 minutes too, right? When time expired, he tapped out again, and Danielson was celebrating, thinking he had won.
Yeah, and then as Danielson goes to find MJF, boop. Yeah, you can't see it. You can't see him. Like Remsburg didn't see it. Then he goes in, and then he gets the label lock. And this was very well done too, because Danielson's never tapped out in this company. He's passed out. He's never tapped. And there's the same thing with Jon Moxley. They do the Hulk Hogan 1, 2, 3, and he starts hulking up, and MJF's panicking, and then he just latches on tighter, and you get the tap out. It was so well done, so great in every sense. And there is one thing I want a victory lap here, Fred. We talked about how like what MJF could possibly do to end up getting pinfalls. I just want to point out I was right. I mentioned the Brock Lesnar spot with Kurt Angle, where he just whacks him with a steel chair and gets a couple quick pinfalls. MJF did the same thing, except he looks at Bryce Remsburg, kicks Bryan Danielson in the balls, and because they have the no time limit, no rest period, he gets 2 quick pinfalls. And I thought that was such a brilliant way to work to the character and prevent Danielson from taking multiple real falls. This was so brilliant. And MJF, nobody can talk about this guy not being a great wrestler. This is a 26 or 27-year-old man
26.
who in 3 or 4 years will already be one of the best professional wrestlers to ever live. We're looking at somebody truly special here.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who's quantifying it, well, he's this. No, this is just a tremendous professional wrestler. He can go in the ring. He can work story matches. He can work high octane matches. He works to his character brilliantly. He's one of the best talkers to ever live when it comes to professional wrestling. MJF is a top 3 to 5 wrestler in the world right now. You're talking about him, Okada, Ospreay, Moxley. He is on that level, if not at the very top.
Yeah, man. Man, just imagine what MJF would be like if he went through the Performance Center, though.
I'm sorry. I literally spit over on my computer.
Yeah. Oh, buddy. MJF is just a born natural for this. Like, he gets this business at an age so young, and like anyone else I can really think of. Like, he's just a complete natural. I'd have to go back and like study 70s Ric Flair, I think, for anything comparable to this, because he just gets every aspect of the business. One thing I will mention here, because okay, listen, the match was fantastic. I went 5 1/4 on it. What was your star rating?
I did not break the scale. This was a 5-star match, and it is one of the 2 contenders for me for match of the year with Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. Something I honestly didn't think could be touched.
Yeah, I'm going Okada Ospreay still, but this is my number 2, I believe. Okay, it's been talked about a lot online, and some people are deciding to defend it. MJF throwing the water on the kid should not have happened, or tequila, whatever it was. That's like a line too far. If you want to jaw jacket someone or tear up their sign, that's fine, whatever. But actually, like, you should never do anything that makes physical contact with a fan as the first person, especially a kid who's just sitting there. And I thought that was bullshit. If this was a plant, I mean, I guess that's one thing. It doesn't sound like it was a plant from people in the area talking about it online. But that's just completely unnecessary. I'll put that out there. And I saw some people like, oh, the kid's going to remember this the rest of his life. And it's like, I don't think anyone goes to a wrestling show to like, be the butt of a joke, especially as a child, for like the rest of your life. It's kind of, it's bullshit. I'm not saying like, oh, we got to strip the title off him or something, but like, it's just MJF crossed the line there, and that should not have happened.
No, it shouldn't have happened. I get why MJF did it, because he's just so entrenched with his character.
Oh, the guy doesn't break character, especially once he's out on TV. Like the little thing, I still don't even know if it was intentional or not, but where he kind of dropped the championship a little bit and immediately played into it by yelling at the fans for making fun of him. Like right before the match has started. Like the guy doesn't break character, but at the same time, you gotta, if you're Tony Khan, you gotta pull him aside, be like, all right, let's pull it back in a little bit, because this just can't happen.
No, it can't happen. And it sounds like, based on everything we know, they did right by the kid. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, that's more important than anything. They did right by the kid.
Yeah, they definitely pulled the here's some please don't sue us merch thing. And like they took care of them. And like obviously this isn't an AEW thing, and I doubt that, like, I can't imagine MJF went to Tony Khan before the before the show and was like, there's gonna be a kid out in that crowd and I'm gonna dump shit on him. Is that okay? Yeah, I assume this is just in the heat of the moment MJF decision that was really stupid. And hopefully we don't see him do anything like that again.
I don't think we're going to end up seeing him do anything like that again. At least I hope not.
Yeah.
But this, I think we need to talk about this as one of the legendary shows of all time. The other 2 shows that we could really talk about as far as being, there are 3 shows. No, you know what, 4. Eventually 5. I'm going to end up with 10. But the big thing here is, this is an all-time U.S. pay-per-view with When Worlds Collide, One Night Stand, WrestleMania 17, All Out 2021, and Forbidden Door. How would you rank those shows, Fred?
Shit. Okay, so it's All Out 21.
Here's the weird thing. They're all different.
Oh yeah, they are. Okay, so this show, Forbidden Door, All Out 21, and WrestleMania 17. Those are the ones you want me to rank?
Yeah.
Shit, I'm gonna have to look at these real quick. Give me 1 second. I will vamp for time though by noting that AEW is at this point they've had the greatest run on pay-per-view of any company in history, unless you want to maybe count the like peak of the Okada Tanahashi era of New Japan shows. I just don't think anyone else really compares. It's just amazing stuff really that they've been doing. Forbidden Door was I thought a great vibe show. But it also didn't have like a real top of the match of the year list kind of match, including, and I like Ospreay, Orange Cassidy, but I also am a bit lower on that than a lot of people. All Out was another, that's a lot of vibes, but it also had some truly fantastic stuff on it, and you had CM Punk's return in a good match. WrestleMania 17 had some very good stuff on it, including, was that the first TLC? Oh goodness, that's
that was
was
two.
Two? Okay, all right. I can't remember. I knew it was one or the other. These are these 3-4 are all time shows, but just in terms of quality, I don't know. I might put, and there's a whole recency bias here, so let's consider that. But I'm thinking that I would have to put Revolution first, just in terms of show quality. And then I think I'd go Forbidden Door, and then I think All Out, and then WrestleMania.
Yeah,
because looking back at my note. Oh, no, just to get this in real quick, looking back at what I watched from WrestleMania 17, I remember liking a lot of stuff, but the only thing that I thought was truly super high level was that TLC match. I thought stuff Angle Benoit, I did not like as much as people at the time. This was me watching it years later. Yeah, I have it on Cage Match. I got it as a 7 out of 10. So
I loved that match.
I have an 8 on Undertaker Triple H, and I have an 8 on Austin Rock, which I think was a little too convoluted to be a truly great match. And also, it's Steve Austin turning heel. Yes, that's a hell of a moment, but at the same time, it's a disaster, for the long term. So that's kind of where I would go, I reckon.
I think if I were to rank these, I think you have to put Revolution at 1. I had 3 5-star matches on the show.
I nearly did.
Yeah, 3 5-star matches. That's incredible. I'll put from any singular show. Hell, if a company has 3 5-star matches in a year,
they're doing damn good.
That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
2, I'll be honest, I'm putting ECW One Night Stand. I thought the wrestling was good. Everybody worked really hard, and the atmosphere is something you'll never be able to duplicate.
Yeah, that's another like the vibes are what makes that special.
But the work was good too. You had Masato Tanaka and Mike Awesome in that hardcore match. That was great. Then there was more just awesome stuff. That's the one match I'll always remember. And then you had Bischoff seething up on the balcony, which was just great.
Yeah.
All Out is next. That was not only was there great wrestling on the show and a legit match of the year with the Lucha Brothers and Young Bucks cage match, but you had multiple outside of the ring things. The Minoru Suzuki bit, Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson debuting back to back. The vibes of that show were phenomenal. And then
I think I've come up with maybe the only show that I would put. There's 2 shows that I might put above this one all time. And this is all off the cuff. I'd have to really do proper, looking back and all that. But it'd be Wrestle Kingdom 10 and 11, so the 2016 and 2017 ones. I think those are of the same level as this in terms of just match quality.
Wrestle Kingdom 11 was phenomenal. The arguably the second best match on that show was the hair match with Goto and Suzuki. Just all-time stuff.
Yeah.
I would put When Worlds Collide at 4, and then
I've never actually watched When Worlds Collide. I can't believe I'm admitting that to the public, but
you know what? I've seen it once, and I was kind of distracted. That would be a fun bonus episode where we talk about When Worlds Collide, because that's an all-timer. I believe it's on YouTube.
I need to look it up. One day I'll have enough time.
But yeah, this was an all-time show, and
absolutely.
Dynamite. Let's run through Dynamite real quick if we can get it. I know we have Alex Reynolds and John Silver, the Beaver Boys, going up against John Moxley, and I think it's Claudio Castagnoli. And then we have Jericho and his sons, Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara, against Top Flight and AR Fox. We're looking like we're going to have a fun Dynamite.
Yeah, it looks like a good show. Yeah, and the coming out of pay-per-view period for AEW is often better than the heading into pay-per-view period for Dynamites, I think. So this could be a really special show. A couple big picture things I want to talk about before we do go, just in terms of pay-per-view. One, boy, anytime anyone says AEW doesn't tell stories, just sit down and think about the show and all the stories it told and wrapped up. It's, AEW doesn't tell WWE stories. And if you like WWE stories, that's fine. I typically don't, because of how they structure them and approach them. I think that they're very well. It doesn't matter what I think. That's not the point of this conversation. I'm not going to sit here and lecture to people about why I think WWE is flawed right now. Maybe at a future time if I'm in a bad mood. But they did such great storytelling on this show. You've got, for God's sake, I mean, just it's an amazing show. It's one of the best ever. Jericho Starks. Fantastic storytelling there, to set it up. I actually still really like that Stark segment where he tricks Jericho basically into doing the match, because Jericho's central character trait is that he's egotistical as hell, and he beats Jericho at his own game. He reverses the Judas effect in one of the coolest spots I've ever seen. Jack Perry, Christian Cage, fantastic storytelling there. The storytelling within the House of Black Young Bucks match, of them countering each other's stuff and everything, it was perfect. Adam Page, John Moxley's story, again, wrapped up perfectly. And MJF Danielson, the story of that match and the story of their feud was just done with a bow on it. This company tells stories. It's not, they don't do, if you think they just put on matches every week that have no purpose, you're not watching the company. I mean, that's all I can say.
It's disingenuous if you're saying that this company doesn't tell stories.
Yeah.
There's really no other way to put it. It's disingenuous bullshit.
Basically, yeah. And there's so much bad faith talk about AEW in general. Again, a couple weeks ago, a new member of the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network, the Gentleman's Wrestling podcast, was on it's probably still on YouTube. Jesse Collins did a fantastic look at why there is this conversation surrounding AEW in general. And I think he really broke down the different sources of it with Rich Craich. I still love that show, thinking about it. And it's either they just don't get it, they're stuck in one frame of reference, or they're being carnies. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say, really.
Yeah, if anybody says this company doesn't tell stories, you just can stop listening to them immediately.
We can also stop with the Chris Jericho doesn't put anyone over / only hurts people's careers, because this is Jericho, I mean, not that Moxley was like a nobody, but Jericho really solidified Moxley as a central star of AEW. Jericho really helped make Orange Cassidy a meaningful star. And now Ricky Starks has all the momentum in the world, I feel like, coming off of beating Jericho. So that's 3 right there. I don't know how we got to this point where we thought that like he doesn't get people over. But he's great. He's really great. One of the best ever. And this conversation we seem to always have around him is just preposterous. But
yeah, it's because they don't like his politics.
Well, I don't either, but the guy can work. What can I tell you?
Look, from bell to bell, when I'm watching wrestling, that's what I care about. I mean, there are obvious exceptions. Like if you're a sexual predator, I'm going to care that you're even getting opportunity bell to bell. But we're talking about a guy who donated to Donald Trump. We're not talking about a guy who groomed young women. We're talking about something different. You could not. This is a situation where you cannot like the guy and still appreciate and like him bell to bell. Like you can do both. It's okay.
Yeah, and if you want to, it's a dark road to go down when you do the. I'm going to not like someone because of their personal opinions. Because if you look at anyone that was wrestling before, I don't know, 2000 at a minimum, it's not great.
No, it's not.
Dig in.
And that is our show.
Yay! What a happy ending.
Because you get a bonus episode of us this week, we are going to be coming to you on Friday with our Dynamite review and talking more big picture stuff in the world of All Elite Wrestling. But we want to make sure we got you our full thoughts. If you want even more detailed thoughts from me, you can check out the AEW Revolution results and review column that I teamed up with Sean Cedar and Jesse Collins on. And you can always catch more of me with all of my NFL draft and Vikings content over at Vikings Wire. If you are listening on the Voice of Wrestling podcast feed, please go and subscribe to our solo feed, The Good, the Bad, and the Hungee. Give us a 5-star review and help us continue to grow the show so we can make sure that we get all of the AEW news and notes to everybody around the world. We want to continue ranking in countries like Turkey because we think that's pretty damn cool. You can follow me on Twitter at TheRealForno and at The Vikings Wire. You can follow Fred on Twitter at Flagrant Wrestling. R for Wrestling, not W. He is Ted Turner, not Vince McMahon. And you can follow the show on Twitter at Good Bad Hungee. Thank you very much for listening here today. Have yourself a great day. And if you haven't watched it yet, go buy Revolution and watch it right now.
Oh, man. That's worth your money, man. Top tier shit. Have a good week, everyone. Or a good couple days, I guess. I don't know what I'm doing. Bye.
Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the podcast all about Joshi Pro Wrestling here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. Every other Monday, we are with you talking about the biggest news in Joshi, along with show reviews, previews, and much, much more.
So if you're new to Joshi or you've been a longtime fan, this is the show for you. We've got something for everyone here. So check us out, Jumping Bomb Audio.
Hello there, my name's Neil David and I'm the host of Eurograps Express, the podcast exclusively dedicated to the wrestling of Europe. If it's wrestling and it happens in Europe and it's good, we talk about it. Whether it's Rev Pro, Progress, WXW, Passion Pro, Pro Wrestling Chaos, Pro Wrestling North, we don't care, we talk about them all. If it's good and it's exciting, I want to share it with you. We're on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Check us out on the feed. Check us out on Twitter at EuroGrapsEXP. And join us for chat about European wrestling and a little bit of chat about cheese. Hopefully see you there.